Alright, fellow YouTubers, friends, subscribers, family, relatives, everyone. Louis here, coming from the backyard. I am by the west garden, right by the apple trees that I've yet to prune. It really has gone wild, and this season has been very good for it. Wanted to show you what's going on the west side pergola. Down here for 3 years now, or 4 years I think, planted all these limelights, which are the original parent limelights for the ones that we have on the property, apart from the recent ones that I planted on the garden enclosure. But these I have propagated and have planted. Two of them are over there, that one behind the rose, and the other side, that little one over there, kind of fairly struggling with the type of clay soil that I have in that further elevated garden by the fence. But today I wanted to give you a mini tour of what's happening back here. I wanted to care for, protect the roots of our existing clematis. These clematis are the type 2 kinds, which bloom about this time of the year, July, August, and if cared for properly, could produce another flush of blooms by September, October. The original plan for the pergola, for these two pergola, was to have clematis climb on top of it. Now over here, I wanted to show you the clematis first. I planted about 4 different clematis over here. This is one, and then there's 2. The root ball for these clematis are all separate, and there's number 3 right there, and number 4 over here. What I've done was I put some wire, 18 or 16 gauge wire that I started from the bottom, and it goes all the way up so that the tendrils and the vine have something to hang on to. Oops, wait a minute, let me adjust the lighting here. So they could climb right on top of the pergola, and in due time, when it's mature, then the entire pergola on top and right on the side will be covered by these clematis. They are deep purple in color, light blue, and indigo blue. But that's the first set of clematis right there. Now down on the bottom, you notice that I put some ground cover, and Creeping Jenny is my favorite. Because it really does provide quick growth. There's a weed right there which I need to remove. Clematis prefer, from the top, they prefer a lot of heat on top and a lot of cool, damp, well draining conditions for the roots. So these are actually planted about a foot all the way down, a whole lot deeper than the original can, deeper than the root ball from the original can that they came in. Now this is what happens when I garden. All these bees, it is right beside me, and there he is, inches away from me, and they don't bother me, I don't bother them. But it's nice to have nature just happen inches before your eyes while they feed on another favorite perennial of ours, a good vigorous growing salvia. Isn't that great? This is one of the reasons why I like gardening, to provide for these bees, ladybugs, and all pollinators. But going back to what I'm saying, I was discussing to you the importance of having ground cover for it. Let me focus on here and focus well. Here's another patch of Creeping Jenny. Having Creeping Jenny or any ground cover will cool down the roots of the clematis, and that will allow them to grow vigorously even more. This clematis patch over here has a spot that needs protection from the heat of the sun. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I got all these weeds that I have to take away. I hand pulled them around this time of the afternoon. But this patch, this spot right here, is where I will put another type of ground cover and texture. Sedum Autumn Joy. I have a small patch in a pot that I will take out, uproot them from the pot, and pot them and plant them up over here. It will give a whole lot more texture because I'm going to show you the whole look of this bed. I have the salvia. Salvias provide all that texture and foliage and all these blue spires, but look in the back and look at that hazy gray, green, sagey blue of the artemisia. From here all the way out there, that is probably 3-4 feet in diameter. This is a $3 plant in a 4-inch pot that I got in the spring, and it has taken off right on this edge. And again, we like them tumbling over, and that's tumbling over onto the gravel. I'm now on top of the steps. I was down on that level earlier, now I'm on top. And this is the elevated garden that I was telling you about, because over here from this vantage point, you can now see on top of the pergola, you can now see the tendrils of the clematis already growing right on top. So that's an encouraging sign right there. Now beside the artemisia, I have the euphorbia. We have lilies over here that we planted that are growing and blooming, and I think these are either stargazers or definitely another kind that I'm forgetting. Right beside it is a big hollyhock that has grown really well. Now some of you on Facebook might have seen my post where our hollyhocks have been attacked by a spore of rust, of hollyhock rust. This has been spared so far. Learning lesson for me, because hollyhocks do not like overcrowding like this. I had no idea that it will really overcrowd, and humidity and extra moisture causes them to harbor spores for the fungi. Beside it, a nice healthy foxglove that I got last spring that I planted from a seed starter, and it's flowering right now, so it's very naturalistic. I did not get this as a mature plant from the nursery, but it's just growing naturally. Just a small, medium size bloom right there, and along with this smaller bloom stock. Already spent and has given us also a lot of blooms this year are the gladioli. In this little cage over here is the remnant of the lupin that has been attacked and eaten by my favorite critter in the garden, a rabbit that visits this spot almost this time every day in the afternoon. So hopefully the root ball there and the taproot is still alive, that next year I will expect the lupin to grow. I'll show you something else. This was the boxwood that I grew 6 years ago. I planted this boxwood along with the others. I've got 4 big boxwood balls over here that I planted and have matured. They like this area, well draining but filled with compost underneath. That it's all I needed to do with it for maintenance is yearly pruning. More remnants of lilies that have grown and have now gotten their blooms spent. Lily irises, it's a mixture. There's a mixture perennial bed. More hollyhocks that I will probably have to rehab and see what goes on later on. A certain type of lily that was given to me by one of my previous patients. Um, I don't know what that's called, but those orange blooms, very delicate. We like it, and it's beautiful. Um, but look at the foliage. Look at the type of leaves it has. Look at that sword-like texture on that leaf. Right beside the big bloom, I'm sorry, big foliage of the hollyhock. And beside that, or behind it from our vantage point, is a euonymus, a variegated euonymus. That gives it a lot of color down below. And there's the other patch of lily again, mixed in with my big border. A huge patch of rosemary. That's about 7 years old, I think, 6 or 7 years old, that tumbles over the gravel path. Anyway, just a little mini tour of the west side part of the garden. But I'm going to show you what I will do to cover that small patch that I showed you earlier. By the way, this, I'm getting distracted even further, but this is a fig that I had rooted up, I should say, back in the winter. Now I put it in a pot. Now we'll do a separate post on figs later on. But back to what I need to do over here. I'm going to create a hole. Sedum autumn joy planted up, and I'll show you what it looks like after I do it. Most clematis will grow well in sun or partial shade. Planted in a shady area, and flowering will be very disappointing. As I mentioned earlier, the climbing clematis that we have need their roots to be kept cool and moist. So what I did is I planted all my clematis base in light shade. In this case, I provided shade with the Sedum autumn joy and the already existing creeping Jenny. Being one of the most popular garden plants, there is a lot to choose from in the world of clematis. What we chose are the Group 2 Clematis. These are the large flowered cultivars that bloom in early summer, somewhere between May and June. They produce flowers on shoots from last year's growth. Clematis in this patch is not even a year old. So what I'm going to do is I'll keep on putting mulch. I will continue to feed it with compost and other organic material. They're very hungry plants, and feeding them accordingly will ensure that I will have more substantial shoots where the blooms will grow from by next year. And by next year, the expectation is for both of these pergola to be filled with good shoots that will climb and crawl on top of them. Given the existing texture, foliage, color, structures, and overall appearance of this area, we are quite satisfied, given that we only started developing this area of the garden not even a year ago. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell. As always, I appreciate you joining me here in the garden. This is Louie, signing off for now, and we'll see you back here in Acorn Hill.